Hey, I'm your old pal, Sleaze Grinder of classic rock and advanced demonology fame, and I am here to solve the rock and roll crisis. Every week, I'll be presenting you with a hot new release, so gird your loins, everybody. It's time for True Rockers Only. Today, I want to tell you about the long-lost Haskels album. One of the things that's really exciting about this record is that it proves just how much unheard and unseen rock and roll gems there still are out there. The Haskels were a punky rock and roll band from Milwaukee who formed in 1977 and were pretty well known locally, but unheard by the rest of us. They released one single in 1980 called Taking the City by Storm. Original copies don't even seem to exist anymore, and even the 1985 reissue goes for upwards of $300 these days. The only reason I've even heard of them is because the title track of that single was on the crucial 1994 comp Bloodstains Across the Midwest, and it was a definite highlight. The band broke up soon after releasing the single. A couple of them were in a quirky Jonathan Richman meets James Chance sax-based band called the Oil Tasters.
Television on. There on the screen was my girlfriend's coat. Oh!
The drummer, Guy Hoffman, was later in the Bodines and the Violent Femmes. The guitarist slash singer, Presley Haskell, sadly was murdered in 1991. And Richard Lavalier, the bass player and second singer, also passed away in 2012. So that really heard single should have been the end of the story. But here's what happened. Turns out in 1979, the Haskels went into the studio for one day and recorded a bunch of songs. They never got mixed or released. They just basically sat there for 40 years until they were recently discovered, remastered, and finally released by Splunge Communications. And what a gift from the rock and roll god. I'm assuming, by the way, that influenced by the Ramones, they went with the fake last name gimmick. And also assuming they named themselves after Eddie Haskell, Wally's sleazy best bud, on Leave It to Beaver.
We'll teach Beaver to say, Usted tiene una cara como puerco.
Well, what's it mean?
You have a face like a pig.
You know, back in the 70s, TV for kids was awful. They made us watch stuff that was 20 years old, like, you know, the Beav, Lassie, Flipper. Even the cartoons were like Popeye and Tom and Jerry's from the 1930s and 40s. It's like if they made kids today watch, you know, What's Happening or HR Puffin stuff. Actually, that would be a lot cooler. Anyway, fun fact about Eddie Haskell. He was played by Ken Ormond, who did not pursue stardom after the show was over. He just went and joined the police force. So there was a mystery about whatever happened to him. For a while, 70s porn star John Holmes went around telling people he was grown-up Eddie Haskell. And it was hard to look things up those days, so a lot of people bought it. Also, there were all these rumors in the 90s of Marilyn Manson being the grown-up version of various child stars, Eddie Haskell being one of them. But he was, you know, like 25 in 1996, so the math didn't really add up. Anyway, in a lot of ways, Eddie Haskell, the character, was the first TV punk rocker, so you could see how he would resonate with a young band. Anyway, what you should know right away is that this record is fantastic. It's hooky, high energy, punky rock and roll that's edgy and accessible all at once. It's got great witty lyrics that never devolve into comedy rock, but are nonetheless very funny, and the band sound incredibly confident, especially for recording all these songs in one session, presumably in 1 or 2 takes. I love the whole thing, but I am especially enamored with the 1-2 punch of the openers. Baby Let's French is fun and horny, and it just rocks like crazy.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So baby, let's go. Some say this is the edge of true romance. It's
By the way, French kiss is a British term. The French just call it kissing. The second song on the album is Liberace Is Coming, and it's got that great lowrider riff you hear on a lot of early LA punk tunes.
Liberace would tell you about Liberace is coming. You are so bad, girls, they don't understand where everything must go. And it's little plan, Liberace is coming. Run, better run, Liberace is coming. Run, better run, Liberace is coming. Run, better run, Liberace is coming.
I like how sinister it is when, really, people were usually delighted when Liberace was coming. Stacy really recently saw a documentary on him and thought he was a real sweetheart. Also, this song reminds me a lot of local band Boston Cream's seminal song, Satan is on the Way. Same vibe. Like, you're a little scared about his arrival, but also excited. But listen, the whole album is a ton of fun. Well played, catchy songs, punk enough for the punks, rock enough for the rockers. It will definitely be a contender for reissue of the year. It comes with a cool poster and liner notes, and it's highly recommended. There you go, everybody. This week's pick for True Rockers Only, the Haskels. Pick it up now from Splunge Communications. And remember, if you support underground rock and roll, people will find you sexy and interesting. Also, I buy all the records I review, so you know I'm not some lousy grifter. Until next time, stay rock and stay true.